Today on Mild versus Wild.
I've got $50,000.
And I've got $90,000.
And we're both building 7.3L Powerstrokes.
So we came to Bremen, Ohio.
To visit unlimited diesel performance. Hey everyone, I'm Greg.
And I'm Josh, and we love all kinds of engines.
And making as much horsepower as possible. That's why we're going into engine shops to find out what we can get built on both a mild budget and a wild budget and see who gets the most bang for their buck. This is Mild versus Wild. Horsepower at any cost. Hey guys, we're here today in Bremen, Ohio, about 45 miles southeast of Columbus. Today we're visiting this Ohio town to meet with Nate Baylor of Unlimited Diesel Performance.
Nate and his business partner, Ben Burnworth, started Unlimited Diesel Performance in 2004 out of their truck pulling habit. The 5,000 square foot shop focuses heavily on the Powerstroke engine family and has the capabilities to do all machine work and injector building in-house.
Unlimited Diesel Performance does everything from regular maintenance and repair work to all-out competition engine builds. And because Nate and Ben have always been Powerstroke fans, they know what it's like to compete against the Cummins guys. They've dedicated more than 15 years to building some of the baddest Powerstroke pulling engines out there. So we're here today to talk about some 7.3L Powerstroke builds for truck pulling applications.
Our mild budget is $50,000, which should make for a good 2.6 class engine. And our wild budget is $90,000, which should make for a competitive unlimited class engine. Once we break down what goes into each build, we'll compare them for total horsepower, horsepower output per dollar, competitiveness, drivability, reliability, and ease of upgrading to see what build comes out on top.
All right, well let's go talk with Nate.
Hey guys, I'm Nate Baylor.
And I'm Ben Burnworth.
And we're co-owners of Unlimited Diesel Performance.
Let's show you around the shop.
We have a full service shop, drive-in shop. We do anything from routine maintenance to full engine swaps. This is our fuel injector shop. We build our own 7.3L Powerstroke fuel injectors in-house. We offer a limited lifetime warranty with all of our injectors, and we build everything from stock up to a stage 5 injector. So we'll take you through the steps real quick of the rebuild process. We get cores come in here, we break them down, we clean everything through our parts washer and final clean in an ultrasonic cleaner. Then everything gets brought over here, and Adam's working on building an injector currently. So once we get through the rebuild process with new parts, then we go over here, and Alex is working on getting ready to flow test some injectors so we can get them on the shelf. Right now we're averaging anywhere from about 25 to 30 sets a week is what we're shipping out right now. This is part of our machine shop. We cut all of our new valve seats and install new guides in our Burco seat and guide machine.
This is our vertical boring mill for boring blocks and decking heads.
This is our Sun and SV15 diamond hone. We use diamond abrasives to keep everything as accurate as possible. We also like to use the diamond for keeping the most consistent RPK and RVK values. Accuracy for us on the honing process is one of the most critical portions of the final step in making sure that we produce a quality engine. This is our new RMC V50. We'll be able to do all of our block machining and cylinder head machining, as well as a little bit of general machine as well. This machine should really help us with production and get things through the shop a little bit faster for us.
Hey guys, we're here with Nate Baylor of Unlimited Diesel Performance. Nate, thanks again for having us come in.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
You know, like I was saying, I've got about a budget of $50,000, and I'm looking to rebuild a 7.3L Powerstroke for about 2.6 or 3.0 class pulling application.
Sure.
And I just wanted to run through with you guys, what a build like that would look like, for 50 grand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we would start off with a cast factory block that would meet the class rules. We would bore it and hone the block, deck it to square, and then we would fire ring the block and the cylinder heads. The cylinder heads, we would also use a factory casting in to meet the rules on the 2.6 class. And as well, we would do a girdle on the bottom end with 12mm main studs to hold the crankshaft in and keep it from moving around in there.
Yeah. So you mentioned a number of things there with the head and the block that, you know, are going to help with some pretty high horsepower. What kind of power levels, you know, would you be trying to hit?
Probably like 12 to 1300 horsepower in that class.
Okay. So that's what the, you know, fire ring, the block and the heads is going to help with, and the girdle is going to help keep everything together.
Yep.
Perfect. Now at that power level, what kind of internals would you be upgrading over something that's stock, you know?
So we would go to a billet connecting rod. The crankshaft is still stock. We would internally balance it. So on the pistons, we would use a forged piston from D&J Precision Machine. It uses a forged steel ring land, and that's helped us to have a lot of reliability over the years. We've been able to do teardowns and reuse the same pistons over again, just from having that forged steel ring land in there and keeping from beating the top of the piston.
Yeah, yeah, and that's something that's pretty unique to a piston like that, right?
It is, yeah. Most forgings, 2618 pistons don't come with that ring land in them, so Drew's got something special there with the forging.
Excellent. Now you mentioned the stock crankshaft would still be used.
Yep.
What about any upgrades in the valve train? You know, you're doing a lot of stuff to the head.
Yeah, so we use a heavy-duty beehive spring in the valve train, a little bit bigger intake valve, and then we do a mild port and polish on that, on the factory casting.
Perfect. Now Nate, I saw you got a turbo sitting out here, and obviously I'm looking to run in either the 2.6 or the 3.0 class. What's that an example of?
So both of those classes would be considered a smooth bore housing. So you would have no map groove. It's basically all the air comes through the center, and then the compressor wheel has to protrude into the compressor housing by 1/8 of an inch.
Okay.
Yep, and both classes are exactly the same. It's just a matter of the diameter difference on the compressor housing or compressor wheel.
Okay, perfect. So that's kind of the air side of it. So you got a couple pumps out here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the fuel and the oil setup for an engine like this?
So on the oil setup, we would run an external drive, single stage wet sump pump, and wet sump pan, and then we would run a belt drive fuel pump, lift pump to the injection pump. On the injection pump, we run an 8-cylinder P7100 series pump. Fitted with 13mm plungers, and we would set it up probably around 650 cc's.
Okay. Now I know with the injector stuff, I know you guys do a little bit of in-house injector work. Is that something that you guys would do, or are you using a different injector? On
the mechanical injectors, we actually go through Scheid Diesel. We would use a dual feed billet body injector for that. Okay, perfect. And then on the oil side, again, I see you got a little bit of AMS oil sitting here. You know, what's a good weight to run for a blowing application? For 2.6 class, we would probably run a 15W40 oil.
Okay, excellent. And so you're looking at about 1,300 horsepower, you said, right?
Yep.
So at that horsepower level, what's my competitiveness looking like in the 2.6 class? You know, am I going to be pretty competitive?
You should be able to be pretty competitive with that.
Okay. That's exactly what we want. You know, we want to be competitive out there.
Absolutely.
But also we want it to be reliable. So, you know, is this something that's going to last me a full season, two seasons?
No, at that power level, I wouldn't see any reason why you couldn't make it through at least one season minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the common things you see if it does end up coming back? Is there any weak spot or?
I mean, we pretty much address all the weaknesses in the bottom end and stuff. You know, we would want to go through and probably have the pump freshened up and make sure everything's good. You know, go through the injectors and make sure all that's good. But as far as the bottom end and everything goes with the FSR pistons and billet connecting rods, you know, we really don't see much issue with these engines at all.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. That's exactly what we're looking for. Now, if I did want to upgrade at some point, you know, if I want to move up a class or make a little bit more power, you know, is this still a good platform to base that on? Is it easy to upgrade from there?
Yep. We've actually got a replica head that we use in the 3.0 class, so we can upgrade and go to a larger, taller deck, and bigger valves again. We can run a different, bigger injection pump, a little bit more fuel to it. We don't really have any.
Yeah, just
any
a couple tweaks.
Tweaks here and there, a little bit bigger injector. Yep.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Nate, for 50 grand and 1,300 horsepower, to give me something pretty competitive and something that's going to be reliable for a few seasons, that sounds awesome. So, again, I appreciate you having me come in.
No problem.
And walking me through a build. And I'm going to go talk to Josh and have him come in and talk about the Wild build.
Sounds great.
All right, well, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I get to be the lucky one that does the Wild side of things, which seems to fit. I get $90,000. I want to be in the 2,200 range. Can we get there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, basically start off with a billet aluminum block and same internals as the mild build, but we would go to a 9/16 head stud, 9/16 main stud, and we would do a full bed plate with the mains incorporated into the bed plate. At that kind of level, we would go to a dry sump oil system, 6-stage system with a Waterman pump on the back for fuel supply. And then from there, we would go to a Clearview oil filter base as well with a K&P filter. And that kind of gives you an idea between runs. You can blast a shot of air in here and put oil, or put the oil down through the screen and see how things are doing before you decide to make another pass.
Huh, interesting with that. That's internals and kind of the base.
Yeah, so
what else is going to help me get there?
the big difference between the mild and the wild build is going to be bigger plungers and barrels in the injection pump. We're going to go to a 15 millimeter pump over the 13 millimeter pump. Larger injectors, triple feed billet body injectors, at least a 4.4 turbo. You might even want to run compounds, or some guys are running triple turbos, but the 4.4 will definitely get you over the 2,000 mark. Water injection, air to water intercooler, that's about it.
So that will get me to that 2 to 2,200 number.
That'll get you to the 2.
What would be the advantage of the single over the 3 turbo in this situation?
The single turbo is going to be a little bit easier on probably the bottom end and everything. You're going to make power up a little bit higher in the RPM range than the compound turbos coming on a little bit lower.
We mentioned lubrication earlier.
Yeah.
So I'd probably like to run AMSOIL in it. I know you guys will do that.
Yeah.
What would you suggest for oil in that?
We would recommend at least a 50 weight oil in that. And we would recommend running about 120 to 130 pounds of PSI of oil pressure.
Got it. How big of an oil tank?
Run a 4-gallon dry sump system.
What'll be different with a cylinder head from the mild build?
The cylinder head's going to have a taller ceiling on the intake side than what the factory casting has in it. And you're going to have a larger 2-inch intake valve. So you're going to get quite a bit more flow over the factory casting.
More air lets us put in more fuel, which puts more horsepower.
Absolutely.
Nice, simple enough. What's the reliability going to be like with this? Am I tearing this down every couple of runs? Am I tearing this down every year? When am I doing this?
So reliability kind of goes back to the block as well. Like the factory castings, we were having issues with the head stud areas cracking on the factory blocks. So that's where you would want to upgrade to an aluminum block. But as far as the internal reliability, you shouldn't really have any issues as far as that goes. I mean, we're going to probably want to tear it down maybe once a year to check bearings and rings and that kind of thing.
Make sure it's going to stay together.
Make sure it's going to stay together for the next year.
Rather than
absolutely.
That's good. So the more air in, more fuel we can put in, and that's more power, obviously. What else is what helps it get in there?
So the individual runner intake is something else that would be beneficial to you.
That's what this one is? Here?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Yep. So the individual intake runner will help, and also the water injection into the individual intake runners helps to keep all your exhaust temperatures in balance, we can actually put a little bit more water in to one cylinder versus another, to just kind of help balance out, and that kind of helps with the reliability of the rest of the engine and everything as well.
For sure. So rather than reading the one temperature at the back,
Right.
you're reading them all individually, and you're getting to see what's going to be happening with each individual cylinder and can adjust.
Yes, correct.
I like that. I like that, especially if I'm spending $90,000 on
Exactly.
the motor. That
Right.
makes a lot of sense. So also in terms of, I know we said the block, what's going to keep the crank in check?
So we also upgrade the harmonic balancer on the more wild build type stuff. We go to an 11-inch Vibratech damper with a taper lock hub design. In some of the earlier revisions of this engine, we had some issues with 7 1/4-inch dampers that went straight onto the crankshaft.
Okay.
So we do a taper lock design that squeezes the hub around the crankshaft and keeps us from having any issues with tearing stuff up in the bottom end.
So is that power or is that reliability?
Reliability.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So in terms of, I mean, where am I going to be running with this then?
So competitiveness wise, you're going to be running in like an open class or run what you brung style class, or maybe even in a super stock class, depending on what you're running turbo wise.
If I get the chassis set up right, how's the motor going to do for me?
Should do great.
So let's say next year, I want to do more. Possibilities in that?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can upgrade the injection pump to a Sigma pump. We could do, like I said, we could do triple turbos with it. Probably get you up even closer to that 3,000 horsepower range.
But I'm going to need to come back with a bigger budget.
You're going to need to come back with a bigger budget.
We'll work on that.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the help. I'm excited to go sit and talk with Greg and kind of compare some notes here and see what we end up with. Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys, so you just heard all about the mild build and the wild build for these 7.3 Powerstrokes. And now it's time to decide who won this thing.
Yeah, this is what it all comes down to.
So we're gonna kick it off with a couple of different parameters that we're gonna judge these builds by. And the first one's horsepower.
Yeah, horsepower. Probably my favorite one in this build.
Absolutely, who doesn't love horsepower?
Right, especially because the numbers that I got that we're probably looking at for mine. That 2,000 range, 2,000 plus, that is a pretty nice number. Yours was not 2,000.
Yeah, as you guys already know, Josh was able to get about 2,200 horsepower on the wild side, and my mild build is going to be about 1,300. Still impressive, but Josh is going to get the check mark for that one.
So next up, we were looking at, are these engines competitive in their respective classes? And how'd that turn out?
So both these builds are going to be really competitive, which is awesome. But you got to give the nod to the mild build a little bit, because at 1,300 horsepower, it's going to be competitive on a more regular basis. Whereas with Josh's build at 2,200 horsepower, he's playing in the big leagues and he's up against some guys that might show up with 3,000 horsepower. It also depends on the track. So there's a number of things that go into whether Josh is going to be competitive, every time out.
Makes sense, makes sense. Yeah, that's, I mean, when you're showing up in an open class, who knows what who's going to bring. So, yeah.
And so that brings us to the ease of upgradability.
Yeah. And Wild gets that one.
Surprisingly, Wild gets that one, yeah.
It starts out with really that billet block. Such a great base to build off of, and that's a large expense in it, but really you can kind of go however far you want to because of that billet block without really having to upgrade that afterwards. Everything else, once we've got that 2,000 horsepower range, is, I don't want to say bolt-ons, but it's stuff that you're just adding on the outside.
Right, yeah, Josh hit it on the head with the foundation of his build just being a lot stronger and just more ready to add horsepower, whereas going from the mild build to what Josh already has is going to cost more money. So the wild build gets the upgradability.
So what about reliability? That is going to be the next big one.
Also an important factor, and both of these builds are going to be really reliable. However, at 1,300 horsepower, I'm going to be able to get at least 2 seasons out of my engine, whereas Josh being over 2,000 horsepower, it's just going to be a good idea every year to break that engine down and make sure you're still good to go.
Yeah, you get to that point where it's just, you're making enough power where you just need to freshen it up at the end of the year. at least take a look and see how things are wearing and stuff like that, for sure.
All right, so by my tally, it's 2-2 though.
So it's 2-2, it's all tied up. And the last category we've got is horsepower per dollar. How'd that end up?
Yeah, so again, this was a category that was very, very close, closer than we both thought it was gonna be. It only separated the two builds by a couple of dollars with the budgets that we had. That's pretty awesome. However, the mild budget ended up winning. It was about $38.50 per horsepower to $41 per horsepower on the wild side.
The wild engine has fallen in this episode.
Yeah, it's a 3-2 victory for the mild engine, so I'll take it.
Yeah, I know you will, but I'll be having more fun pulling a heavier sled then.
Yeah, yeah. You got the horsepower, you got the little more fun going on, but hey, victory is a victory.
I'm excited to see what we take on next time.
Absolutely. And we thank you guys for watching. Hope you guys will join us next time.
We'll see you soon.